Hi, everybody. I'm Mike. This is a bunch of Guns and Gear Reviews, and you are listening to The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second every Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. So uncover your keyboards and fire up your fingers. Time to join the conversation.
Hi, everybody. Glad to see you out here this wonderful Friday evening. Well, it's evening for me. I'm sure it's mid-afternoon for some of you. But in any case, I'm glad that you chose to spend some of this time with us and listen to us gabble on about different things and hopefully join the conversation and be part of it. Got a lot to talk about tonight, as always. I mean, this is a subject matter, a topic of conversation that never really goes dry, does it? Seems that there's always something going on in the Second Amendment world. And, well, I guess that's good for us, right? We have something to talk about. Out there on the YouTube side, we got the Gun Snob, David Bowling, Gizzard Gary, Vandalistica, Roosted, Patriot in the Dark. Bunch of people out there. Good. Glad to see you. Thank you for stopping by over on the Gun Channel side, because we are indeed simulcast over on Gun Channels. Let's see that. Let's have that refresh. And we got, once my computer stops being slow, we got me, but that's okay. All right. In the panel today, we have, usually I go left to right on my end, so it'll be right to left on your end. No, scratch that, reverse it. Anyhow, we got Squib in the house. How you doing, sir?
Hi. Anybody know what code 893 means? Because it's not in the maintenance manual.
Sorry, I guess that's going to be a no for me.
You're a lot of help, thanks.
Hey, dude, there's a reason I don't work in a factory. And I am indeed what could be called a hired thug. And as I've said many times, there's reasons for it. Roll call, how you doing, sir?
Hey, thanks for having me, Budget. I am going to enjoy this, especially at the end of the show. And if you don't know, stick around and you'll find out.
Oh, a little bit of teaser there. Awesome. Matt, 50 caliber Karma, how you doing, sir?
I swear to God, people don't know how to drive.
Oh, that's right. You do live in California, don't you?
Yeah, I second that. People do not know how to drive.
Oh, and Squib, David Bowling says, sounds like time for lockout tagout.
Yeah, we might be doing that. I don't know. It's just crazy. Whatever. The machine sounds. Sorry.
Psycho 316. Hi, how you doing, sir? Glad to see you hopped in. We got Mike from MW Tactical with us tonight too, but he is somewhat occupied at the moment. So
but I'm
we'll
right
talk
here.
with him later.
I'm ready to
there?
run my mouth. Yes, I'm ready to talk about some things.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great.
What you got going on tonight?
Hey, thanks for the invite, and like I said, I'm glad to be here.
All right. Well, I'm glad to have you, sir. Okay, let me set the screen share up because I want to share with you guys an article from NPR, of all places, that actually debunks some school shooting statistics. I know it's shocking, but it actually happened. Let me go ahead and start my screen share and get that all set up. Shouldn't get a copyright strike on this one. Shouldn't. Shouldn't. I'm not playing any video or nothing. Can everybody see that?
I can on our side.
How about out in the chat? Can you guys see that on the YouTube side?
Yeah, I can see it on that one.
All
Yeah,
right,
you're good.
go. All righty. All right. The school shootings that weren't. This is from August 27, 2018 by Anya Kamenetz. Whatever. By Anya, anyway, she wrote this. This is on NPR.org. How many times per year does a gun go off in an American school? We should know, but we don't. This spring, the U.S. Education Department reported that in 2015-2016 school year, nearly 240 schools reported at least one incident involving a school-related shooting. The number is far higher than most other estimates. But NPR reached out to every one of those schools repeatedly over the course of 3 months and found that more than 2/3 of these reported incidents never happened. Child Trends, a nonpartisan, nonprofit research organization, assisted NPR in analyzing data from the government's civil rights data collection. We were able to confirm just 11 reported incidents, either directly with schools or through media reports. In 161 cases, schools or districts attested that no incident took place or couldn't confirm one. In at least 4 cases we found something did happen, but it didn't meet the government's parameters for a shooting. About a quarter of schools didn't respond to our inquiries. When we're talking about such an important and rare event, this amount of data error could be very meaningful, says Deborah Temkin, a researcher and program director at Child Trends. And then it shows some nice, pretty graphs. In the 2015-2016 school year, the federal government reported there were 235 school shootings, but 161 schools or districts reported to NPR that no school shootings had occurred. In Cleveland, there were 37, but the reported number may have been intended for the previous item in the data collection. In Ventura County, California, the school district misreported the numbers of the 26th. Only 11 were confirmed independently by NPR. 4 incidents were miscategorized, and the remaining 59 could not be confirmed or disconfirmed. What a word. Confirmed or disconfirmed by NPR. So there's your wonderful graphs. So if you are a visual learner, there you go. The Education Department asked for comment on our reporting, noted that it relies on school districts to provide accurate information in the survey responses, and says it will update some of these data later this fall. But, officials added, the department has no plans to republish the existing publication. So in other words, yeah, we got it wrong, and we're going to update for our next, but we're not going to, correct our error. That's awesome. This confusion comes at a time when the need for clear data on school violence has never been more pressing. Students around the country are heading back to school this month under a cloud of fear stemming from the most recent mass shootings in Parkland, Florida, and Santa Fe, Texas. Excuse me for a second, I need to take a drink. At least 53 new school safety laws were passed in states in 2018. Districts are spending millions of dollars to harden schools, quote unquote, with new security measures and equipment. A blue ribbon federal school safety commission led by Education Secretary Betsy DeVos is holding public events around the country, including one in Alabama Tuesday. Children are spending class time on active shooter drills, and their parents are buying bulletproof backpacks. Our reporting highlights just how difficult it can be to track school-related shootings and how researchers, educators, and policymakers are hindered by a lack of data on gun violence. I think someone is pushing the wrong button, or I think someone pushed the wrong button. The civil rights data collection for 2018 required every public school, more than 96,000, to answer questions on a wide range of issues. It asked what sounded like a simple question. In 2015-16 school year, has there been at least one incident in your school that involved the shooting, regardless of whether anyone was hurt? The answer, nearly 240 schools, 0.2% of all schools, was published this spring. The government's definition included any discharge of a weapon at school-sponsored events or on school buses. Even so, that would be a rate of shootings and a level of violence much higher than anyone else had ever found. For comparison, the Everytown for Gun Safety database, citing media reports, listed just 29 shootings at K-12 schools between mid-August 2015 and June 2016. There is little overlap between this list and the government's, with only 8 schools appearing on both. And then it goes on to show another graph of schools shootings that were listed in the survey, one plus the ones that were listed in every town. You know, what it cross-references all of these. The ones that were confirmed by NPR, see that was all of these that are listed, and then only these were listed in every town's database. A separate investigation by the ACLU of Southern California was also able to confirm fewer than a dozen of the incidents in the government's report, while 59% were confirmed errors. The civil rights data collection dates to 1968. The Education Department's Office for Civil Rights administers the survey every 2 years. Every public school is required by law to complete it. These findings often drive public conversations. For example, the CDRC was the source of recent reports that black students were suspended from school at rates much higher than whites, information that inspired changes in discipline policy across the country. The survey has dozens of items ranging from how many middle schoolers passed Algebra 1 to how many students with disabilities were restrained or secluded. It can be completed by filling out an online form or uploading data. One item about firearm use was required for the first time for all schools in the most recent data collection. Most of the school leaders NPR reached had little idea of how shootings got recorded for their schools. For example, the CDRC reports 26 shootings within the Ventura Unified School District in Southern California. I think someone pushed the wrong button, said Jeff Davis, an assistant superintendent there. The outgoing superintendent, Joe Richards, has been here for almost 30 years and he doesn't remember any shooting, Davis added. We are in this weird vortex of what's on this screen and what reality is. In other cases, something may have happened, but not the firearm discharge the survey asked about. The biggest discrepancy in sheer numbers was the 37 incidents listed in the CRDC for the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. Roseanne Canfora, the district's chief communications officer, told us that, in fact, 37 schools reported possession of a knife or a firearm, which is the previous question on the form. The number 37 then was apparently entered on the wrong line. Similarly, the CRDC lists 4 shootings among the 16 schools of the Santa Monica Malibu Unified School District in California. Gail Pinsker, spokeswoman for the district, says that going back 20 plus years, no one can remember any incident involving a firearm. Their best guess, she says, is that there was some kind of a mistake in coding where an incident involving something like a pair of scissors, for example, got inflated into one involving a firearm. Ray Poole, the chief of legal services for the Nassau County School District in Florida, told us that at one school where a shooting was reported, Callahan Middle School, on November 21st, 2015, a Saturday, a student took a picture of himself at home holding a gun and posted it to social media. We got wind of it and nipped it in the bud. No shooting. The CRDC shows 7 shootings in DeKalb County, Georgia. Police reports provided to us by the district give a sense of more of the many ways the data collection may have gone wrong. At Reedham Middle School, there was a report of a toy cap gun fired on a school bus. Not a shooting. The CRDC shows a shooting at Stone Mountain Middle School, but a police report shows an incident at Stone Mountain High School instead. And district officials provided a police report showing that there was a shooting after a McNair High School football game in August 2016, after the time period covered in the survey. The Education Department's Office for Civil Rights received complaints about the wording and administration of this survey even before it went out. A June 2014 research report commissioned to improve the CRDC as a whole noted that in previous data collections, districts had experienced unacceptable levels of reporting burden. They complained that CRDC asks them to report information that is similar to what states already collect, but in a different format or at a level of specificity that they don't currently track. Also at issue, the internal report says, was a lack of clarity in the definitions of key terms. When it came to offenses, the group of questions including firearm use, districts indicated dissatisfaction with the categories provided, specifically that the CRDC categories did not align with the categories used in state reporting, other federal reporting, and or their own district databases. As an example of this lack of alignment, the Federal Gun-Free Schools Act requires schools in states that receive federal funds to expel students who bring a gun to school and requires districts in those states to report the circumstances of such expulsions to the state, regardless of whether a gun goes off. The state of Florida asks schools to report weapons possession, excluding pocket knives. California asked schools to report suspensions and expulsions resulting from possession, sale, furnishing of a firearm, or an imitation firearm, and so on. There's also potential for confusion within the CRDC itself. While this particular item refers clearly to a shooting, the previous item asks about the long list of incidents, some involving a firearm or explosive device, and others involving a weapon. Temkin at Child Trends, who has long studied bullying and school climate, says this wording could cause confusion. Best practices in data collection are not to include double-barreled items, she says, such as asking about a firearm or explosive device in the same question. An explosive device could be something like a pipe bomb or even a firecracker. NPR submitted a Freedom of Information Act request to learn more about problems with the data collection, and we received emails that schools and districts sent as they grapple with this kind of confusion. For example, the Almro School District in Wisconsin wanted to know whether a consensual paintball gunfight involving several students should be considered an attack with a weapon or a possession of a firearm. Another reason the shooting data may show these kinds of problems, Temkin adds, is that the item is so new. Because this was the first year this was asked of all schools, they may not have been as prepared to respond to this item. And there's another factor at work as well, the law of really, really big numbers. Temkin notes that 240 schools is less than half of 1% of the schools in the survey. It's a margin of error. It's in the margin of error. Liz Hill, an education department spokeswoman, told NPR that at least 5 districts have submitted requests to OCR to amend the school-related shootings data that they submitted for the 2015-2016 CRDC. The plan is to issue what is called errata to update the data, but the original document will not be republished, Hill said. Hill made the point that any misreporting in the schools is the school's responsibility, not the department's. As always, data reported by recipients is self-reported and self-certified. Yeah, but if you're asking jacked up questions, how are they going to know what to report? That's on you because your survey's stupid. After we contacted the Santa Monica Malibu Unified District about the 4 reported shootings, the district emailed the Office for Civil Rights to try to correct the information. No shootings happened, officials said. The Office for Civil Rights responded on July 25th. The CRDC accepts correction requests for up to 1 year from the moment the submission period opens. For the 2015-2016 collection, the corrections period closed on June 30th, 2018, and for this reason, your data correction request cannot be accepted. However, a data note will be included in the data file to ensure users are aware of the errors you are reporting. So there you have it. You know, NPR of all places, I have to give them credit for this. They did a really good job of delving into the weeds here and looking at the data collection methods for this survey and pretty much proving that it was completely full of crap. Good for them.
Yeah, that's a prime example of what to show your kids and how to, especially if they're like I don't know how old everybody else's kids are, but my kids are at the point where they're consuming information. They can understand the information that they're consuming. And this is a great way and a great thing to point out to them that says, you know, not all the information out there is correct. You have to use more than one source to get, I guess, certification for what is true and what's not. So,
well, ultimately, the data in this study will go towards more school security, hopefully. So I would think that as parents, we would all want the data to be as accurate as possible. And yeah, some of these questions, you know, either being vague or just ridiculous, doesn't help with any sort of solutions that have been proposed out there to make our schools safer. So it's acting to defeat any possible, I don't want to call them solutions. How about just better ways to deal with the reality of things that could happen at the school. It derails it almost.
Well, it's hard to make any improvements when the assumptions you're basing those improvements on are false. And that's what's happening here. Because the survey's jacked up and it's collecting erroneous data, the conclusions that you're going to draw from the data are wrong. And therefore, anything that you do to try and improve it is wrong. And, it's impossible to do anything constructive that might actually have an improvement when everything that you're building it on is just bull. And then, of course, they won't correct the document. So, that's government for you. We're going to do it. And once we put this out, it's done, too late. Working in government, I'm well familiar with that. Looks like we had some more people join in over on YouTube side on the chat. Let's see. Sandhill Shooters come in, unknown user. I knew that I saw some others in here. Let me scroll down. Lisa McFalls came in. Hi, how you doing? Warsaw Patriot. PNW Woods. I don't think I recognize that username, so welcome. I hope you enjoy the show. Let's see. Psycho, I talked to him earlier, said hi. I think that's it. Not that I can see that has said anything in the chat. So, yeah, that's correct. They won't correct it because it serves them. Absolutely right. So the next thing on my stack of stuff is yet more erroneous data. Another bunch of statistics has been debunked, which, I love hearing this. This is a piece from Breitbart from August 30th. CPRC, worldwide percentage of mass shootings in U.S. exaggerated by over 95%. Researcher Adam Lankford claims 31% of the world's mass shootings occur in the U.S., but John Lott's Crime Prevention Research Center, the CPRC, says the actual U.S. percentage is over 95% lower than Lankford suggested. Lankford's study looked at 1966 to 2012 and found 90 mass shootings in the U.S. during that time frame and 202 throughout the rest of the world. While the findings of 90 mass shootings over a period of 46 years represents a stark rebuttal to the myriad leftists claiming 300-plus mass shootings a year in the U.S., CPRC is convinced Lankford's figure on mass shootings throughout the rest of the world is way too low. CPRC reports that when they looked at mass shootings around the world during a 15-year window of time within Lankford's overall study period, they discovered 1,448 attacks and at least 3,081 shooters outside the United States. In other words, they found at least 15 times more mass public shooters than Lankford in less than a third the number of years. CPRC noted, Lankford claims to have complete data on such shooters in 171 countries. However, because he has neither identified the cases, nor the location, nor even a complete description on how he put the cases together, it is impossible to replicate his findings. It is particularly important that Lankford share his data because of the extreme difficulty in finding mass shooting cases in remote parts of the world going back to 1966. Lack of media coverage could easily lead to undercounting of foreign mass shootings, which would falsely lead to the conclusion that the U.S. has such a large share. Professor Carl Moody, College of William & Mary, offered the following. The assertion that the U.S. is responsible for 31% of worldwide mass shooters is patently absurd. Anyone who doubts the veracity of Dr. Lott's analysis is welcome to download for free and in Excel format the entire global terrorism database, which gives the, and then he gives the URL. There they will find, with a simple back-of-the-envelope calculation, that worldwide since 1970 there have been 58,445 mass firearm attacks. Of these, 402 have occurred in the United States. The U.S. is, according to the Global Terrorism Database, responsible for less than 1% of all mass shootings, 0.69%, since 1970. Dr. Lott's calculations are much more carefully done, but Professor Lankford's analysis is clearly not in the ballpark. Also, social scientists seldom have laboratories. Replication is the only way to verify claims. Any academic who refuses to share his or her data for replication purposes deserves to be shunned. CPRC is pressing this issue both because they want accuracy in research and because Lankford's claim that 31% of the world's mass shooting occurred in the U.S. is being used as an argument against gun ownership. So, the Crime Prevention Research Center doing exactly what its mission is, debunking bull research. So awesome. Tier Talk Corrections 1. How you doing, Ganji? Glad you could stop by. David Bowling says fake news everywhere. Yep, that's it. That's absolutely it. There's fake news all over the place, and they'll make up whatever story they want to, as long as it agrees with their agenda and furthers it.
I think that some people don't remember some of the things that were in the news in the past. Like in the 1990s, there was a tour bus at the pyramids in Egypt, and it got stopped by a roadblock, and on either side of the bus, the terrorists jumped over something and ran out into the road and shot up the tour bus, and there were tourists on there from all over the world, including America, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
That's a mass shooting. How about when those terrorists took over the embassy in London in, what was that, 81? I know most of you probably don't remember that because you're too young. But I mean, it was on TV. There's the SAS, the British Special Air Service. That's their equivalent of our Navy SEAL. And on TV, they're using explosives to get in there and jumping over balconies and stuff. Or how about was it down in, it wasn't Venezuela? It was one of those South American countries where they had a standoff in the embassy for, what was it, like a month or something, and they had to tunnel under the embassy to get in there. And I mean, terrorist acts happen all over the world, and they're a lot bigger than some of these mass murders that happen here that get more sensationalized. And I'm not saying we need to downplay when somebody dies here or when several people die here, but I think they're looking in the wrong direction. What they really need to be looking at is how many times these incidents have been stopped because somebody had the tools and the means to stop it, or that just knowing that it was public knowledge that people can defend themselves was deterrent. That's where these studies need to be looking at. If they can prove that everybody being able to carry a firearm and people having access to things like, for example, stand your ground laws, even though some of the things that have been going on with that lately haven't been very positive, and stuff like that. If they could show where this stuff is widely available and it still didn't stop crime, then they'll have a leg to stand on. But they don't want to look at it like that. They keep looking in the wrong direction.
Well, part of the problem with this is it's really hard to prove a negative. In other words, how can you prove that, if something didn't happen, how can you prove that anything had an effect on it? You know what I mean? If there wasn't a shooting, if it was prevented, I mean, how do you, I don't know how you can statistically track that. We have the self-defense stories. Every week I do a self-defense shout out, but those are incidents that did happen where someone did have the ability to defend themselves and actually had to. It's kind of hard to prove, though, that, doing this is effective because, look, nothing happened. If nothing happened, there's no data. That's part of the problem with it.
Yeah, I guess I just mean
it's harder than hell to prove.
I guess I just mean in the places where there's tons of gun control or people don't have access to guns, how much crime there is versus a place where people do have access to guns and they don't have to worry about.
I see.
As much prosecution from defending themselves. Maybe something like that. Like how we look at Chicago. It's like they got all that gun control. It obviously does nothing.
Yeah. Speaking of Chicago, last weekend, same weekend of the Jacksonville shooting, there were 28 shot in Chicago, but you don't hear anything about that.
Yeah, I didn't hear about that at all. My local police department was in the news, but I didn't hear about Chicago.
Your local PD was in the news. What happened?
There was some mom locked her kid in the car, and it's a hot, humid day, and she called the police department to get the kid out of the car, and the 911 operator said, "We don't break into cars, ma'am." So,
wow.
Yeah, so the chief of police issued an apology, and he said, "We're going to review our policy on that."
Oh, even my local PD will break into your car for you.
Well, here's the thing: if you lock your kid in the car, before I'm calling the cops to unlock the car, I'm grabbing a rock and I'm breaking out the window. So, I'm not saying that the cops weren't wrong. It was, even the chief of police admitted it was a mistake. But yeah, if you're not capable of smashing a window to get your kid out of a hot car without calling for assistance, relying on the government to help you. So yeah. I do think the parent does bear a little bit. And she was at her grandparents' home. She was visiting her grandparents in my township. So you're going to tell me that there were 3 adults there, and none of the 3 of them could figure out how to pick up a rock and break the window? We rely on the government way too much. But that made national news. It's like, wow.
Okay. Well, there's yet more debunking going on, and this one is particularly sweet because there's a face to it, and it's one that most of us have, well, not a whole lot of use for. David Hogg makes up lie about NRA and gun sales, gets fact smacked. This is from the National Sentinel. Unhinged. The left is using Marjorie Stoneman Douglas school shooting survivor David Hogg as its latest propaganda mouthpiece in the unending war against the Second Amendment, to the point where the young man has now been empowered to just make stuff up. This week, he claimed that the NRA was ramping up efforts to bolster gun sales during a, quote, record low period, a conspiracy theory that is long on conspiracy and extremely short on facts. In trolling Education Secretary Betsy DeVos, who is attempting to do great things with POTUS Trump for Americans in terms of reforming dismal public school performances, Hogg claimed that the National Rifle Association was working to manipulate her. He claimed to his 868,000 followers last week that the NRA is pulling strings to increase gun sales in a record low. So it goes to show a tweet by David Hogg. So we can't afford textbooks for our children, regularly fund inner city schools, pay our teachers a livable salary, have free public college, yet we can arm teachers. Sounds like the NRA is pulling strings to increase gun sales in a record low year. First off, there's zero evidence to support Hogg's claims. Not only that, his claim of record low gun sales is a complete fabrication. The Washington Free Beacon's resident gun issue expert, Stephen Gutowski, fact-smacked young Mr. Hogg. Gutowski says there have been about 1 million more FBI background checks, the most reliable indicator of gun sales, this year than last year. And this year is on pace to be the second best in the history of NICS. So no, gun sales are not experiencing a record low year, he wrote in response to Hogg's tweet. Hogg, who did not further elaborate on where he got the information to concoct his conspiracy theory, has a history of making false and misleading statements, some of which have been promoted by the media, the Daily Wire reported. As to the rest of Hogg's wish list, everything the left wants in terms of free isn't free. Someday, perhaps, he'll learn that little lesson in economics when he starts paying taxes. So, yes, love it, love it, love it. Hogg caught out in a lie and called on it.
Yeah, that's just nothing more than right now he's making a plea to run for some form of Congress. And you can actually,
he plans to when he hits 25, I guess.
Right.
And he's just trying to keep himself relevant.
Exactly.
Warsaw Patriot, that's Stephen Gutowski, let me hold on a second. Gutowski. He writes for I think the Washington Free Beacon. Yes, Washington Free Beacon.
I got Mr. Hogg. If you ever listen to Budget's chat, and if you ever get a chance, I like Mr. Hogg to debate my daughter. My daughter is not like an expert. She's not one of these people that you see on Clover Tax chats. But I'd like for him to debate my daughter and have him understand what guns mean, and to put even further dismay to his claims is I work on the other side of the counter, and I can tell you with all the stuff that I've done that I have done quite a few background checks. So not only you can have that piece of information, you can have my piece of information in my area of all the background checks that I've done for NICS and for the system that I work on. So that guy, and the only thing else I'm going to say about this guy is grow up, learn about life, stop trying to find your 15 minutes, and go do something productive in society instead of spreading lies, rumors, and it's lies and rumors because you just got caught.
Well, Ro, I would submit that he's found his 15 minutes and then found another 15 minutes somehow.
Yeah, but he's standing on the graves of his classmates to make a name for himself instead of going out and doing it on his own like a man.
And that's a good point. I think that's part of what makes me so disgusted with this kid, and love to see him get metaphorically smacked around, because he is. That's exactly what he's doing. He is standing on the graves of his classmates to try to improve his position, and that's yeah. I've never thought of it like that, but that's exactly what it is, man. That's exactly what it is. DTemp out there says something about funny how my notification is as conspicuously absent. You didn't get a notification for this? If you haven't hit the bell icon, I would hit that. And if you have, maybe unsub and sub again. That might do it.
Now, there could be some YouTube algorithm that says he's not doing enough interaction. So just troll the heck out of this channel, right? And then you'll always get notified.
That's right. Yes. Comment on everything, thumbs up everything, hell, thumbs down everything. Do as much engagement as you possibly humanly can. Set up a bot to do the engagement for you. I don't know. I'm sure the algorithm would pick that up too. In other news, speaking of, I know I mentioned Jacksonville earlier. I know I had the single shot on the day that this happened to talk about the Jacksonville thing, and I know everyone's kind of been talking about it ad nauseum, so I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it, but I do want to talk a little bit about that this case proves, well, not proves, but it does demonstrate the futility, I guess, of having all these numerous gun control laws. The Jacksonville shooter, David Katz, had, we now know, had bought his guns legally in Maryland, which has a lengthy process involving permits and background checks and waiting periods and all kind of other stuff that you really have to hoops you have to jump through in order to get.
Yeah, David Bowling did a video on that, and it's a pretty lengthy process.
Yeah. So, you would think that he would have been weeded out as being unable to get a firearm, but that wasn't the case. This is from the Baltimore Sun. Despite mental health troubles, Jacksonville shooter was able to buy guns in Maryland. By his 16th birthday, David Katz had been admitted to Shepherd Pratt Hospital, had been prescribed antipsychotic medication, and had the police called on him more than once by his mother. None of it preventing him from buying a gun in Maryland. Katz's troubles, at least what's documented in public court records, fall below state thresholds that prohibit someone with a mental disorder from buying a handgun. Still, researchers of gun violence say a state law coming in October, they're talking about red flag laws, could be a tool to prevent another shooting like the bloodshed Sunday in Jacksonville, Florida. Jacksonville Sheriff Mike Williams said Katz legally bought a .45 caliber and a 9mm handgun from a licensed dealer in the Baltimore area in recent weeks. The Columbia man traveled to a video game tournament in Jacksonville, then allegedly opened fire. Katz, 24, killed 2 people and wounded 10 others before taking his own life, the sheriff said. Those killed were Elijah Clayton, 22, a football star from California, and Taylor Robertson, 28, from West Virginia. Investigators have not offered a motive for the shooting. On Monday, details emerged from his parents' divorce case in Howard County that showed Katz's behavior had long worried his family. As a teenager, he would go days without bathing, play video games until 4 a.m. on school nights, and walk around the house in circles, a Howard County judge wrote in 2000. Hell, that sounds like just about any teenager during the summer. The judge wrote that Katz was failing classes at Hammond High School, ignoring teachers and counselors, and showing flashes of hostility toward his mother. Questions have swirled about how he could have bought the handguns with Maryland's rigorous background checks. The state laws are generally more stringent than federal prohibitions. Under state law, someone may buy no more than 1 handgun in 30 days, so it remains unclear how Katz was able to buy 2 in, quote, recent weeks, as the sheriff said. The sheriff's office did not answer question Tuesday about the purchases. Maryland blocks the sale of handguns to anyone who has voluntarily entered a psychiatric treatment facility for at least 30 straight days. Court records show Katz was admitted to Shepherd Pratt for nearly 2 weeks in 2007. He later spent 13 days at the Potomac Ridge Mental Health Facility in Rockville. Neither stint would disqualify him from buying a handgun. The records offer only a snapshot of his years of treatment. His parents, Richard and Elizabeth Katz, have not returned messages. Maryland State Police runs background checks on prospective gun buyers. A state police spokesman declined to say whether Katz passed the background check, noting the investigation continued in Jacksonville. Officers review databases of court records, driving and juvenile histories, rap sheets, and more. Since the 2007 shooting at Virginia Tech, state police have required gun buyers to sign a waiver allowing officers to obtain limited medical information from the state health department. Wow, really? So in order to buy a gun in Maryland, you have to allow them to look at your health records. From what I've seen, nothing in this young man's background would have legally prohibited him from acquiring handguns, said Daniel Webster, director of the Johns Hopkins Center for Gun Policy and Research. He, in essence, jumped through all the hoops and didn't have any disqualifying conditions. A Baltimore man has been identified as the gunman who opened fire in Jacksonville, Florida. Yeah, okay, I don't know how the hell that got in there. That was a caption from a picture in the article. David Katz, 24, had been participating in a tournament for a Madden football game franchise and was among those pronounced dead at the scene. Federal authorities were at a home near Baltimore's Inner Harbor on Sunday night as part of an investigation. State law also disqualifies someone from buying a handgun who has been involuntarily committed for mental health treatment. Court records show no indication Katz had been involuntarily committed. Sorry to be drinking you guys' ears, man, but my mouth is awful dry today. Anyhow, where am I at? Further, the law bans handguns to anyone with both a mental disorder and history of violence. Katz once punched a hole through his mother's bedroom door to retrieve his video game controller she had taken from him, she told the court. Records show they had a fraught relationship. She called the police on him in February 2009, his father said in court records. The divorce case includes a transcript of the 911 call. Quote, he's sitting here wrestling with me, the cable cord to the TV. I've had enough with this child. He has been abusive for over 2 years, his mother told the dispatcher. And yet, court records show no sign Katz was ever charged with a violent crime. Well, that's something. I know around here he sure would have been. I have kids that are wrestling with their parents over video game controllers come in to my detention center all the time. In addition to the background check, state law requires anyone buying a handgun to be licensed. Buyers must be fingerprinted and attend a firearm safety class to receive the license. Eric Schaefer runs a Frederick law office known as Maryland Gun Lawyers. He routinely helps people obtain and keep their guns. Katz's case shows background checks aren't the answer, he says. I just don't see a lot of evidence they work. Look at the list of people who have passed background checks and then been involved in mass shootings. Schaefer says some clients are reluctant to seek therapy for concern they would lose their guns. Like those who research gun violence, Schaefer wonders what effect the new law will bring in October. Earlier this year, the General Assembly passed a so-called red flag law allowing police to seize guns from people whom judges deem dangerous. Under the law, family members or police can petition a court to intervene and confiscate guns from a threatening relative. As with a protective order, a judge would have to find the person that poses harm. Katz would be a likely candidate for the intervention, said Emma Beth McGinty, who researches violence and mental health at the Hopkins Gun Center. This is an individual who was exhibiting pretty clear signs of dangerous behavior, McGinty said. I really wish we had the red flag law in place sooner. You know, I see what they're saying about the red flag law, because in this instance, had that been in place, this whole thing might have been prevented. However, my concern with the red flag laws is the potential for abuse and the potential for bypassing due process. You know, I don't think that you should be able to restrict someone's rights without due process. You know, you have to go through it first and get that determination by a court that someone is not responsible or not able to handle firearms before you can take them. I don't think you should be able to do that. What do you guys think? Do you think the red flag laws might have had an effect in this case, given this kid's history, or should it have been handled some other way, like, maybe him actually being charged with violent crimes when he committed them?
Well, you know me, what I've already stated from the start is what should take place is if you do the crime, hold their feet to the fire, make an example out of them, and hold them to the letter of the law. No shortcuts.
Roll call?
Go ahead, Squib.
I'm wondering why somebody hasn't blamed violent video games. I know Madden isn't really a violent, it's football, and I'm not trying to make light of it, but how many times have we heard it's video games, right? It's what they see in the movies. And here this kid, whatever, got pissed off because he got booted from the tournament, as far as I know. Like, he lost. He comes back, he shoots 2 people and shoots himself. He probably shot the 2 people he lost to. I'm saying probably because I can't confirm it. All I heard was that he got ejected from the tournament because he lost. But he had guns in his car. He was ready. What, in case he lost? I mean, was it premeditated? I don't know. But at what point is somebody going to start blaming video games? I mean, it says right there, he's wrestling over a video game controller. I've taken away video games. I've seen my kids pissed off that I took their video games, because that's the one thing that they like the most, that and cell phones. But those are the things that go, because that's what gets their attention. And I got to say, you only have to do it, at least in my case, you only have to do it a few times before they realize, you know, why don't I just do what he says and I don't lose my stuff. But this kid sounds like he had almost like an addiction problem. So I'm just wondering when somebody's going to blame video games.
I think with this child, it's one of those type situations where everybody gets a trophy for participating, which this was the outcome of the trophy generation.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah, I brought that up when I did the single shot on this, that people don't know how to lose anymore. They don't know how to handle disappointment. They don't know how to handle failing at something, because all their life it's been, oh, well, you did your best. Here's a trophy. They're not being prepared for the win or lose reality of actual life as an adult. Either you succeed or you fail. You don't, there's no, okay, you did well, fella, here you go. That doesn't work like that. If you're on the job and you're assigned something, either you complete it or you don't. And if you don't, you face consequences. There's not, oh, well, we'll get it next time there, fella.
So, but like I said, bottom line is what they need to do is hold them accountable. Don't give no leeway. If he did it, if he killed 4 people, hold him accountable for the maximum, whatever it is, the maximum charge for killing a person times.
They can't, because he killed himself too.
Yeah.
But I heard.
No, I'm saying
some of the people,
like future killing.
Oh yeah. I heard some of the people there are suing the organizers of the tournament because they didn't provide adequate security. I don't know if I thought that I heard it was a gun-free zone. I don't know what the laws are there in Florida, but I'm wondering how far this would have gone if there was either armed security or people had the right to open or conceal carry there.
Well, I don't know what the law is in Florida with regard to that location where they were, whether they could prohibit someone from carrying or whether it was prohibited by law from carrying there. I don't know, but I do agree that if a business or any location forbids someone from carrying a firearm for their own defense, then they should provide adequate security, and if they don't, they should be held accountable for it. I absolutely agree with that. Going back to the red flag law thing, I know that Vandalistica Vlogs lives in Australia, but something he points out it exactly illustrates why I think that there needs to be a lot of oversight with the red flag situation. He says that I voluntarily went to a psychologist and then couldn't get a letter from him to give the cops to say that I wasn't a risk. And that's why he couldn't get his license to get a firearm in Australia. And I think that that's exactly what would happen here in the U.S. And that's what a lot of people are afraid of. That's why you have a lot of people that have mental health issues who go untreated because they're afraid of that very thing. They have something that happens, and they don't, and they suffer some temporary depression and they want to go, for instance, when my daughter passed, I had to go talk to, finally had to spend some time at seeing a counselor to kind of help me get over the hump and get with that. I would not take any medication for that to help with depression, anxiety, all that good stuff because of this very thing. I didn't want that to be in my mental health records because I in the future I don't want someone to use that against me as far as getting my buying a firearm or anything. I mean, I'm fine now, but I needed a little help then, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But there are a lot of people who would refuse to do that because they'd be afraid it would count against them later. And that's a very, very valid point as illustrated by Vandalistica.
I look at it this way. Red flag laws are trash and could have been prevented. We'll never know. But if you give the people the ability that are allowed, law-abiding citizens, to carry a firearm, you wouldn't have red flag laws. It would nullify red flag laws. When you keep on restricting people that don't have mental disorders, but you still continuously restrict them, you're going to have these problems. Now, would this red flag law prevented it? Could have. But you know what else could have prevented it? If you had adequate security, first of all. Second of all, you let people carry who can carry and who are authorized to carry via permit or open or conceal or open carried. I mean, these red flag laws, I don't agree with them because there's other options. There's other options that are way more better in certain situations like this. These red flag laws aren't going to do anything. They're not going to do anything but restrict people in all the cases that you just mentioned, and they're not going to help. They're going. It's gun control. It's plain and simple. It's gun control. It's the control that they want to put over the human being. Now, I've run into a little bit of a problem with this stuff, and if I had a red flag law in my state, I would have been flagged, and they would have came in here, and I would have been questioned and everything. What? Because I'm a gun owner, or because I have an opinion? It's too risky. The government will always abuse things, and when you continuously put these kind of situations in the government's hands, they do one of two things. they abuse the heck out of it, or they screw it all up. I believe in free liberty, and if you don't like it, just like the Democrats do, it's a revolving door, and guess what? It swings both ways, and you can head out on your way. I'm willing to take the risk because I'm a law-abiding citizen. I've never committed a felony or anything heinous in my life, and if you allow me to carry a firearm, I can protect myself. But when you start taking these precautions away from me, then you end up being like these poor people in this video game thing, or in any other situation. When you continuously restrict people's rights, these things happen. You cannot control it. You can't. This kid should have. He reminds me of the kid down in Florida, the other one that went on a rampage. He could have been stopped, couldn't he? This kid could have been stopped. The cops have already visited him. His parents have already put it on paper. So he should already be dinged. Soon as he puts his name on the confirmation to sign away for a firearm, he should be dinged by Nix because he's already on paper.
You would think.
Come on, man. I mean, I understand what you guys are saying, but man, red flag law. When moms demand action, support red flags laws every time they're passed. Every time they're put forth in legislation, that should give you a sign. And if you don't know what moms demand action is, you need a quick re-up and go Google those. I call them a terrorist organization.
I don't think they espouse violence for political reasons.
So how far into one of these places that have started these red flag laws do they get to the point where somebody commits a crime that should have been caught by the red flag law, and when the news stations go to ask the government, hey, why didn't you catch this guy? You guys have had a red flag law in the books for 2 years. They're going to go, oh, we're overwhelmed and we're understaffed, right? Just like everything else. How many times have they used that excuse for other things, the government, at all levels, right?
Well, yeah, because then they can increase their budget to hire more people. Or just to increase their budget, period. I mean, that's a old trick in government. You know, you wait till when you're getting near the end of the fiscal year and you still have money in your budget, all government agencies go on a spending spree. That just happens. That way they can justify the fact that they needed that much money in their budget and, in fact, request more.
Or maybe 10 or 20 years after a red flag law has been in state X, somebody does research and come to find out that 95% of the times they had to investigate it, the person was innocent. And they go, oh, we've had this law for 10 or 20 years and it hasn't done anything to reduce crime, and we've penalized all these. You know what I mean? We've seen other studies like that, too, with other BS laws or things. So I don't agree with the red flag laws either. And I understand people want security. The roll call's got it right. If you can bring the means with you everywhere you go, if you choose to have an equalizer, a self-defense tool, that is going to be the best deterrent to crime, or the best way to deal with crime. And it's unfortunate, but taking away your means to protect yourself and the people around you is never going to make the place safer.
No, it isn't. Mel the Nut out in the chat says, we are only guaranteed freedom, not safety. It's up to us to provide the safety. I would say that we're not even guaranteed freedom, because they'll do everything they can to take that from us if we're not on top of it constantly, holding feet to the fire and letting them know that we're not going to tolerate it. Because if we stand back and do nothing, you can bet that our freedom will dribble away. It has incrementally over the years as it is. So, I see what you're saying, but I think that we need to be the ones to be on top of it to provide both freedom and safety for ourselves. because nobody else is going to do it for us.
One more thing before we move on. I look at it this way. You know, my parents raised me, right? They looked out for me. They did their thing. I got one parent gone, the other one on the way out. So now what? Do I look at it this way, folks, out in the chat, on gun channels, and also over here on the YouTube chat? Look at it this way. Who's going to take care of you after these mentors are gone? Are you going to rely on the government to help you? Let me tell you, as a victim of a violent crime, as an armed robbery victim, it took them 9.5 minutes to respond to my situation. Now you're going to tell me I'm going to keep on putting my life in the hands of 9 minutes, or am I going to continue to carry and make sure if any kind of situation arises that I can take care of myself? There's no one else that's on this earth that's going to take care of me, that's going to follow me around, that's going to swat me on the butt when I do something wrong. And if you guys think that the government is always going to be there, they're going to be right there as soon as you pick up the phone. As soon as something heinous happens, you're wrong. And that's how I feel. And, you know, say what you will. I get a little bit ripped, but that's how I feel. And no one's going to protect you but yourself.
Okay. Hey, do you guys mind if we run a little bit over tonight? I don't have to work, and so I don't have to get off here and get ready. We still got a couple more things to cover. If you guys can stick around, that'd be cool.
Do it. Get it done.
All right. So we're going to run just a little bit over tonight. So the next thing I want to cover is bringing up an older story, but there's a little bit of a new twist to it. The Feds scramble after Las Vegas shooter's girlfriend lists FBI as place of employment on loan application. She might have been an asset, quote unquote. This is from August 24th, 2018. Mary Lou Danley, the girlfriend of Las Vegas mass shooter Stephen Paddock, worked for the FBI, according to credit application data the Australian National reported as part of a loan application. That's the same Danley whose fingerprints were found on Paddock's hoard of ammunition packed into unused rifle magazines. Publicly available intelligence obtained from consumer credit reporting bureaus shows Danley claimed the Federal Bureau of Investigation as her place of employment. It's an interesting revelation. Where the hell did I get this from? I want to give my source, but I'll look for that here in a second after I'm done reading it. When contacted Friday, one FBI source said the Bureau might have made payments to Danley, but it is above my level, the source said, referring to access the FBI's confidential informant participant and payment records. Boy, that's a terribly written sentence. The source said bosses are concerned with the new revelations about Danley's financial relationship with the FBI. In FBI speak, Danley could have been a paid asset. And concern means folks are getting ready to cover their own butts if payments were made to Danley either before or after the massacre. Perhaps FBI Director Christopher Wray can shed light on the matter. Or Danley, if you can find her. It took the FBI days to locate her and interview her after the Mandalay Bay massacre. Danley is an Australian national. She's not a U.S. citizen. Of course, this bombshell intel is coming from FBI sources in the Beltway, not the corrupt Las Vegas FBI field office headed by Aaron Rouse. The same FBI field office that has not been able to pinpoint a motive for the October 1st, 2017 massacre that killed 57 people. Little wonder why the narrative doesn't fit the crime if the person whose fingerprints are on the ammunition also happens to be on your FBI payroll. A YouTube video surfaced Thursday highlighting a database search with Danley's apparent employment linked to the FBI, as reported by database giant IntelliUS as well. Perhaps a member of Congress can investigate? Who else can we call? The FBI? The story is developing. Zippy says that shooting was an FBI gun sting gone wrong. And you know what? The more I think about it, the more I look at everything, the totality of what evidence we have, and the fact that there's a lot of evidence that we don't, I'm inclined to agree with you. I mean,
one word, Patsy.
Yeah, Patsy. And maybe his name wasn't Stephen Paddock. It should be Stephen Patsy.
That's scary. That's really scary, man.
I'm going to go ahead and try to find...
Okay, so the theory is he had all that stuff up in that room to sell to somebody to help pay his gambling debts, and that person, when he figured out that it was the FBI, he just decided to flip out and commit that crime? Is that the new theory, or...?
Don't know. There are lots of different theories on that. There's that one, then there's the fact that maybe he was working with the FBI as well to try to sell guns to some terrorist organization who went apeshit and attacked during that time. Because there's all the multiple shooter theories and all this other stuff. I mean, I don't think we will ever know what actually happened in all this. Ever.
I got another one-worder for you. JFK.
You think it's on that level?
Heck yeah, after what you just read. I mean, if it goes that deep and we're going to get into the point where, I mean, people are going to get in trouble for this, and they're really going to get, the stick swung at them. Shoot, it doesn't. We won't know how high it goes. What if it goes all the way to the top? And
yeah,
we all know about what Obama did. Let's send those drug cartels guns, and they pop up in Europe.
I got that story from truepundit.com, TRUEPUNDIT.com. So if you guys want to go check it, matter of fact, if you guys want to go check that out, I will copy that link and put it in the chat.
I hope my brother's not watching this. He's a conspiracy freakazoid.
Is he?
Oh God, sometimes I have to just hug him.
Yeah, my brother's pretty level-headed. Well, except for the whole lawyer thing. I mean, if you want to sell your soul to the devil and be an evil son of a bitch and be a lawyer, then hey, go ahead.
Well, my brother sells insurance, so he's not far behind.
Even worse.
Yeah.
That's even worse than a lawyer.
He's not far behind.
But anyhow, I went ahead and dump that link in the chat. If you guys want to check that out, feel free. But now we get to start some good news. So I got one more thing to cover, and then the self-defense shout-outs, which I know is your favorite part, Ro.
Yes.
All right. You guys know we've talked about the whole defense distributed thing. And how they won their lawsuit. Actually, it was settled with the government. Go ahead, distribute these files. But then a bunch of states decided they wanted to sue, and a judge put in a injunction against them so that they couldn't release the files. Well, that was all predicated on posting the files and giving them away for free. Cody Wilson, on the other hand, decided that he's going to find a way around that. Man behind 3D gun file spoils the left celebration over ban with major announcement. This is from the Daily Wire by Amanda Prestigiacomo. August 28, 2018. The anti-gun left could not contain their excitement when news broke on Monday that a federal judge in Seattle extended a ban on Austin-based company Defense Distributed, which prevented it from hosting 3D printable gun files, though the company has a license from the State Department to do so and, First Amendment protections. The ruling was intensely shaky and a jab to both the First and Second Amendment, so naturally Democrats were aroused. But their celebration was premature. Defense Distributed founder Cody Wilson crushed their short-lived happiness during a Tuesday press conference where he revealed that he actually won't be stopped from sharing technical data. He will simply sell the files via his website, defcad.com. Yes, he can do this. This judge's order stopping us from simply giving things away was only an authorization that we could sell it, and that we could mail it, that we could email it, that we could provide it by secure transfer. I will be doing all of those things now, announced Wilson. A lot of this to me was about principle. He continued, for many years, I just chose not to sell these files because I'm an open source activist. I believed in demonstrating that there was a right to commit this information to the public domain. But this is my opportunity to correct the media all in one place. To read headline after headline about how you can no longer 3D print a gun, you can no longer have these files. This is not true. This has never been true. I now have to demonstrate this to you forcefully to deliver the point. There is no set price for the material. Patrons are asked to give whatever they'd like in exchange. Wilson said the money would be used for further legal fees. Everyone who wants these files in America can get them, he said. They're allowed to name their own price at our website. Making money is not important to me. The 30-year-old said he's happy now to become the iTunes of downloadable guns if he can't be the Napster. Oh, that's brilliant. But added that it was somewhat regrettable that state's attorneys general drove him into the commercial space. The only person who was hurt by the Seattle ruling is the common man, Wilson noted later in the presser, again adding that he will not be stopped. DefCAD will also allow the public to sell their own files via the site. To call an end to the conference, Wilson joked, I have to go talk with Alex Jones now. You know, the real news. So that is great.
That's funny.
That is great.
Well, you know, he won't be selling them.
Sell it. And if all you want to pay for it's a penny, pay a penny. So what?
Yeah, but you know he won't be selling them through Shopify, that's for sure.
No, he won't. So that's awesome. No, David, I don't think he's going the televangelist route to send me money and I'll pray for you. I think it's really just a end run around the obstacles in his way. You know, if he can't give it, there's nothing that stops him from selling it. And if all you want to pay is a penny, well, shoot, you just paid a penny, you know? So I think that's outstanding. I think it's great. Good on him. I hope he distributes millions of them. So there we go. That's all the main stories I wanted to talk about tonight. So we will close out as we always do every week with the self-defense shout-outs. For those of you who are new to the show or who have yet to stick around to the end, when I go through the self-defense shout-outs, I am not celebrating the death or injury of anyone, even the criminal. What I am celebrating is the life, liberty, in pursuit of happiness of the person who would have been the victim of the criminal, except that they had the means, method, and opportunity to protect themselves from those who would deprive them of their life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So in order to start this out, we'll go ahead with this one from the New York Post. Uber driver fatally shot man in self-defense. Winter Haven, Florida. An Uber driver in Florida claimed self-defense after he fatally shot a man who trailed his car and tried to run him off the road, authorities said Wednesday. The Polk County Sheriff's Office is investigating the death early Tuesday of 34-year-old Jason Boak of Winter Haven, Florida. This is a classic stand-your-ground case, said Sheriff Grady Judd, speaking at a news conference. Grady Judd. Well, that guy just sounds like a Southern sheriff, doesn't he? Speaking at a news conference. I mean, if I were writing a comic book that had a Southern sheriff as a character, J.D. Grutt is what I would name him. Or Grady Judd. That's it. The sheriff's... J.D. Grutt. Yeah. The sheriff's office said an enraged Boak, believing his estranged girlfriend was the Uber's passenger, aggressively trailed the car of 38-year-old driver Robert Westlake. Let me see where Robert Westlake. Okay, a dash camera video posted to YouTube by the sheriff shows Boak driving erratically and attempting to run Westlake off a Central Florida road. Once both vehicles were stopped, Boak got out of a large pickup truck and threatened to shoot the driver, according to the sheriff. Unknown to Boak, the Uber driver was a concealed weapon permit holder and a recent police academy graduate. The sheriff said Westlake fired one shot, striking Boak. The Uber driver then called authorities and attempted to revive him. Authorities said Westlake has cooperated with police. Westlake did not know Boak, but nor did the passenger. According to authorities, the passenger who had been drinking was escorted into the Uber by Boak's on and off again girlfriend. Boak apparently mistakenly believed his estranged girlfriend was in the vehicle, Judd said. Boak threatened to assault both the passenger and the driver, according to text messages released by police. He had an extensive criminal history, according to the news release issued by the Polk County Sheriff's Office. He was on probation until June of 2021 for a 2016 felony battery charge. Police found a glass pipe containing methamphetamine residue inside the truck driven by Boak before the shooting. At the end of the day, the message is clear, said Judd. Don't mess with the Uber driver. That's awesome.
Did you see the video on this?
I did see the video, and as a matter of fact, I'm going to play it here right in a couple minutes. So if you guys want to talk while I set the screen share up, that would be awesome.
If you want some more information on this, go to a channel called Active Self-Protection, ASP. They do videos like this every day. And they
did he show this one?
Yeah, he did. I watched it this morning. And I got to tell you, this is a lot like the last one. If you see how fast it goes from the guy saying, I have a pistol and I'll shoot you or I'll use it, to this guy blasting him, it was about as fast as the guy that got knocked down in the parking lot. I'm going, what is going on in Florida?
No, he was way faster.
I'm not saying people have a right to defend themselves. And I'm not saying I'm against the stand your ground law. I'm all for the stand your ground, and I'm all for people being able to defend. And I understand it was dark. He couldn't tell that cell phone wasn't a gun. But I still think it's another situation where you point the gun, and if you had the opportunity, you return the threat. If this guy's walking up to him with his cell phone going, I got a pistol, I'm going to shoot you, and you actually show him your pistol and point it at him, you're like, I got a pistol too. This guy might have run away. Just like the guy who got knocked down could have pulled his gun and go, get back. And that guy would have probably got back because he was already backing up. I'm not trying to armchair quarterback it and coulda, woulda, shoulda. This guy asked for trouble by running his Uber driver off the road and coming after him. And
asked for trouble? Hell, he begged for it.
But the thing is, though, it's just how fast it happened when I'm watching this, and I'm even taking into consideration he can't tell if that's a cell phone or a gun, but just how fast it went from threat to death. And it's just, I don't know. I think that if you have the opportunity to use your weapon in order to stop the conflict, or possibly stop the conflict without having to shoot one time, I think that you should try to take that opportunity. And every situation is different. Just in this situation, I saw an opportunity where we're actually just showing him the weapon might have ended it. So,
all right, let's go ahead and watch this.
The guy's a dirtbag anyhow, so whatever.
Yay, video.
Come on. We might have to watch this a couple times.
Can I say something?
What the hell? Come on. Try to play an ad. Let's watch this again.
Technical difficulties? No, not on this channel.
No, never. Seriously. This is annoying. I don't want to see that.
You know, Budget, if you said you were an IT guy for a living, I'd be a little disappointed.
Oh, dude. As I've said repeatedly, there's a reason I'm a hired thug.
The right of the function.
Yeah. There is an absolute reason I'm a hired thug. Come on.
If it doesn't buffer too much, people can see how fast it is. It's fast.
Oh, it'll do all right once the page loads. It'll just take a second for the page to load.
What's better than the last video was that this one actually has audio to it.
Yeah.
I say something?
I'd have shot him too. I mean, that happened quickly. I mean, that was fast. And, you know, the guy's coming up, pointing something at you, saying, I got a pistol. Do you want me to shoot you? I mean, what else are you going to do? So, yeah, don't blame him a bit.
Look, I wasn't sitting in the driver's seat, but just from that angle, I don't know. I think I would have had my gun pointed at him, but I think I would have returned the threat before I pulled the trigger. Everybody's different. Everybody handles the situation different. And I'm not saying that in a situation where I felt like I may have to use deadly force, that every single time I'm going to give a warning. I just feel that he had enough time to, you know, say, hey, what's your problem or whatever. And the other guy goes, I got a pistol. I'm going to use it. I know I'm paraphrasing, but
Yeah.
if you've got the time to go, hey, what's your problem? I think you also have the time to go, I got a pistol too. And maybe throw in a couple expletives. But hey, it's not up to me. I'm not the prosecutor, whatever. Plus, the guy just graduated the police academy. They're probably going to just let him go with whatever. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, they said they ruled it justified.
What's that, Mike?
Yeah, they said they ruled it to be justified.
Good.
Oh, I'm not saying it's not justified. I'm not saying it's not justified. It's just, I'm just saying I might have handled it a little bit differently. But if at that point, you know, the guy didn't stop, turn around, whatever, then at that I can go, well, hey, not only did I show him the gun, but I told him I'd use it too. You know,
well,
I guess it's maybe because Florida has got those lax laws where you can just pretty much blast somebody if you're afraid. And I think you should be able to, because there's too many circumstances where somebody defended themselves or somebody else, and they got the book thrown at them. Here in my state, even though we have the right to conceal carry and open carry, and it's a gun-friendly state, they'll prosecute the crap out of you for defending yourself, even if you're in the right. Even if the guy who shot at you doesn't show up to court, not because he's dead, but because he flees the country, they will still prosecute you here.
I gotta agree with what D-Temp says in the chat. He says it's a big risk to think he's lying about having a gun than being wrong. Yeah, if he's, because looking at this video in particular, the guy pops out of the truck, he's pointing an object at you, says, I have a pistol and I'm going to shoot you. That's not the time to say I got one too. That's the time to jerk your own and go to work.
I guess. I mean, he's in a state where you can get away with that. I'm not. So I just have to approach it differently.
Yeah, maybe my self-preservation instinct is too strong. All right, now the final self-defense shout-out. Alleged intruder shot in chest by woman defending 4 children. 29th August 2018 from Breitbart. An alleged home intruder in Elmira, New York, was shot in the chest Sunday by a woman protecting 4 children. The Star Gazette reports that 33-year-old Jason A. Lopez allegedly entered the home around 6 a.m. and was shot in the chest with a legally owned shotgun. Elmira Police Captain Anthony Alvarez indicated that Lopez was shot at close range in the upper chest shoulder area. WENY reports that the homeowner and Lopez are not acquainted in any way. Lopez has a criminal record that includes a second-degree robbery conviction and 5 years in jail. On July 7, 2018, Breitbart News reported that Gabby Gifford's gun control group claims stories about self-defense gun uses are a myth. They said the good guy with a gun narrative is a myth meant to scare people into buying guns for self-defense. The truth? People rarely use guns for self-defense. And in keeping with the initial theme of the show today, another one debunked. So with that, we're going to bid you all a fond farewell. I'm very thankful that you guys stuck around for the last 24 minutes to close out the show. Very glad that all of you in the chat are there being part of the conversation. Very glad that all of you on the panel stuck around. Let's go ahead and go through the panel, see if there's any last words, plugs, anything you want to leave us with. Mike, MW Tactical, anything that you have to say, sir?
Sure. If you haven't done so, you can find me weekly on the Black Man with the Gun podcast, where you find me giving tips and review segment. Also having a conversation with Ken Blanchard, who's the host, about the topics around the 2A community. He has an app you can go download, and the app is called Black Man with the Gun. If you want to call me, you can call me at 803-250-1256. If I don't answer, leave a voicemail or a text message, and I promise I'll get back to you. For those who are willing to contribute to the campaign that we started for our efforts within the society outreach, you can contribute to gofundme.com/M-W Tactical. And also, if you're not aware, every Tuesday we publish a video of either a product review or something concerning with training. All right. So if you go to Gunstreamer, you can find me under Munitions, Weapons, Tactical. And on GunTube, OochTube, and YouTube, you can find me under M-W Tactical. And then head over to Facebook and Instagram and look up M-W Tactical and subscribe and like the pages as well, and look at our adventures. That is all.
Excellent. Hey, Mike, just FYI, I just gave you a wrench, so you can start putting links in the chat for all that stuff.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. Roll call. Anything you want to leave us with, sir?
Hey, thanks for having me tonight. I enjoy the extended version of The Right of the People. It's a great show. Thank you all for joining us on both sides, the Gun Channel side and the YouTube side. You can check me out on 219 on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. And if I won't throw my link, you can go to my YouTube or my Gunstreamer account or my GunTube account and go check out that video, and it'll give you all the information you need to know on that. And like always, guys, I will catch you on the next one.
Squib, any words of wisdom, sir?
As usual, can I get to the mute button? Words of wisdom. Well, I've got a YouTube channel, but my videos aren't the greatest, so I'm not going to promote it. I'm not on any of that other social media stuff just because, you know, gun channels and YouTube is about all I do. But I'll be on Caliber Corner tomorrow morning. That's on the Travis P11 channel, and that's pretty much on, well, every platform everybody else is on. But check it out on gun channels. And let's see, it's at, what time is it? 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 Central, if you actually live in that time zone. And I'm not sure what the topic's going to be tomorrow, but we have a good show on Saturday mornings and a good panel. So check it out, Travis P11.
There you go, folks. As always, I want to thank everybody in the panel, everybody in the chat. I'm glad you guys stuck around for the extra super special extended version of The Right of the People. You can catch the show again next week, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. You can also watch my content here on Budget Guns and Gear Reviews on YouTube, also on Gunstreamer, GunTube, HugeTube. I am Budget Guns and Gear on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You guys are all welcome to join me over there. Patreon as well. You know, don't hesitate to become a budget buddy. Throw a little bit of support my way. I will never, ever go pay to play. This will always go on, whether anyone supports me or not. But every little bit does help. So once again, I want to leave you guys with the same thing I always do. You know, make sure that you're constantly in contact with your Congress critters and other elected representatives at the state, local, and federal level. Let them know what you think. Let them know that we will not stand down and stand there, lay down, or roll over and allow them to take our rights from us. You know, carrier pigeon, email, snail mail, telegraph, telephone, smoke signals, whatever you got to do. Let them know that you will never, ever, ever give up the fight.